Why is the idea of having no children so frowned upon? Me and my girlfriend have been dating for a little bit over 2 years now. We spend a lot of time around each other's families, and luckily we both have pretty transparent relationships with our parents. One thing that they pretty commonly bring up is questions like, when are you gonna have kids, or pretty much just questions having to do with kids, when we plan on having them, and how many we want to have. We don't exactly keep it a secret that we don't want children. We have talked about this a lot and both just come to the conclusion that we don't want them. In mentioning this to either of our parents, they are usually pretty hostile about it. Like saying, what's the point of living our lives and getting married if we don't want children? We've explained it to them before, but the hostility hasn't changed one bit. I've learned to just ignore it pretty well, so I'm not really worried about that. I'm just wondering, why is this so frowned upon? Especially by the older generation? I have some friends who also don't want children. They both got sterilized a while ago, so now they just reply to those kind of questions with, "Oh, we're incapable for medical reasons. We couldn't if we tried. Also, we don't like to talk about such a painful topic. Please don't mention it again. It's rather effective." Because you are talking to people older than you who culturally feel like having kids is the next chapter in your life. I would assume friends and other peers your age don't view it this way. As a teacher, I firmly believe that you should not have children to satisfy the whims of other people. You do them, yourselves and society, a disservice if you have children you don't want. I've taught way too many children whose parents were not happy being parents. I actually had one mother tell me she and her husband waited until they were 40 to get married, so they wouldn't. They waited for sex and didn't believe in BC. It didn't work and they had 3 children. It made me sick. I taught all 3 in different years and saw a lot of damage. Some people make having kids their whole lives so much so they refuse to acknowledge any other way of living. I've heard them refer to people who don't like or have kids as selfish and child-hating for no reason other than not having kids. Children topic should be considered between the two of you when you want it. Never let anyone outside of your relationship dictate or pressure you to do what both of you do not want. Besides, you guys are 20 years old. Come on. Too early for that. Having kids is part of the script. Deviation is confusing. Some people didn't consider it or think it was a viable option. I would suggest that some people might wish they had not felt pressure to have kids. In any case, choosing a different path feels like an attack or invalidation of their own choices. It's kind of like watching the confused look on an James Cameron's Avatar fan's face when you tell them you found it technically impressive but a bad film overall. Except of course the magnitude of the topic for the person is much greater. Choosing not to have children is a relatively recent phenomenon. It's your life, not theirs. Ignore them. 20 is not the age to have kids. You are barely an adult. Even college professors go easy on students at this age. Some people do not understand that. People can want like different things and that's okay. Not everyone finds their value in siring offspring. Some people might actually be totally repulsed by sex childbirth. I never wanted nor had a child. I've been called greedy, selfish and not normal. I just say, why have a child just because I'm a female? Why have someone I don't want? If I had to take care of a child I would with 100 care and love, but I just don't want any. Why can't people respect that and move on instead of trying to make me feel bad? Because it's what they think is a normal progression for some. My hypothesis: the hormones chemical process that binds you to your kid makes you want to protect them as nature's crack. And they think everybody wants to hit that shit. Asking a couple of 20-year-olds anything about kids is incredibly fucked up, that's all I can say. Some people live their children's entire life as insert child's name here, parent. They have no other identity except for being that child's parent. They assume that to be fulfilled is to be a parent. For older generations, having children was not optional. It was the most important part of life. If you live differently, by not having children, that most important part is questioned or even threatened. The problem is that having children is important for society. But society does not create an environment where having children is desirable, or even financially possible. Everyone writing here has two biological parents. And if you don't have kids, the line that was not broken since the first life is broken. I tell people I am unable, so they shut the fuck up about it. They also do it to people who have a bunch of kids. And don't get me started on the comments you get choosing to have an only. It's not just childless. Pretty much of you aren't parents of two kids. A boy first, then a girl with a golden retriever running around in your backyard. People have comments. Don't let anyone talk you into having kids. That is up to the two of you. It is financially, emotionally, mentally draining. Don't have them if you don't want them. Mom of 6. Because it's ingrained in us from a young age, especially women, that you have to have kids when you're older. When someone goes against that, it shocks people and brings out the worst in them. Asking about kids when you're both only 20 is insane. Some people think grandkids they can spoil but don't have to raise or they're owed payment for raising you. Because, believe it or not, but the urge to procreate has a serious evolutionary advantage, so it's more common than not in humans and animals, of course. Plus, humans tend to do this really annoying thing where they project their own views and opinions as normal and rational. So since they view it as the natural progression of a relationship, they assume that everyone else should too. Geez, you're 20 and have only been together 2 years. They should be glad you don't want kids. Right now. Rolling on the floor laughing, rolling on the floor laughing. I'm 27 and my fiance is 31. As of now, we don't want kids. Could that change? Sure. My grandma got upset when I mentioned previously not wanting kids. But it's nobody else's business. Having kids in current times is a much greater financial commitment than it used to be. Also, the world kind of sucks. So not everyone wants to bring life into that. They just don't get that times have changed. If their questions make you uncomfortable at any point, tell them. Because they're jealous of our free time. I'm 57, on my third marriage and have not had kids with any of them. Based on my family history of neglect, and I was an unplanned child in 1966. I chose to not go the same route as my parents with no regrets whatsoever. Because older generations hate the fact that the younger ones may not endure the same pain they did. Through having children they did not want. To satisfy the societal norms they do not agree with, but chose to go along with anyway. This is crazy because me and my BF have had the same discussions and absolutely do not want kids. Yet, my parents get so upset when we bring up that we don't want any. I can't wait to hear what the deal is. Is it just traditionalism? Trying to make themselves feel better about having children? Or are we being genuinely looked down upon? We feel the same frustrations. My parents had something like 7 miscarriages before my stubborn ass came along. My wife comes from a family of 7 siblings. Neither of our parents can even remotely comprehend our absolute and complete rejection of having kids. So, as I very articulately and gently put it to my mom, I don't give a fuck what you want. This is my life. We also bailed on all our families in CA and fled for the cornfields of rural Ill because I refuse to go to another remote cousin's wedding. We plan to collect cats, guns, and grow vegetables.